Hey there! So for today's video we're going to be doing something a little bit different than usual. So the 52-week activity challenge series has come to an end. I wanted to do a video that kind of feels like it's tying up the series a little bit better because it ended rather abruptly. Some people like this kind of thing. They like watching people sort of reflect on a series that they did, and some people don't. So if you don't like this kind of thing, if you don't want to watch me talk for however long this video ends up being, you can feel free to skip on to season 2. I will have a playlist up here somewhere, and you can just click that and head on over there to continue watching me do random activities every week. But if you do like, seeing my thoughts on the series, what my favorite things were, my least favorite things were, that kind of thing, then you can stick around, and that's what we'll be doing today. This series really didn't turn out how I planned it to, and if you've watched all the episodes up until now, you'll have heard me say that a few times already. It was like I got like a very small piece of what it was meant to be, but didn't really get the full thing, and that sucks. But I did kind of just want to reflect on it, talk about the things that I really loved and things that were hard about this series and the aspects of it that I really enjoyed, and talk a little bit more about why it didn't work out. I'm gonna start with my favorite things about this series and the activities that are my favorite to do. So I'm gonna pull up my list because I don't remember everything I did. I remember most of it, but I think my favorite month actually would probably have been May. I mean, I think from March to June, I think it was starting to get pretty good. Like, it was, the editing was getting a little bit better. The activities were more interesting. I think it was starting to kind of pick up speed a little bit, and then it just sort of ended, unfortunately. But I did do a lot of things. Like, when I think about it, I completed a lot of things, and I am proud of that. Like, I did pretty good, I guess. And I think some of my favorite activities, though, if I had to choose a few of my favorites, it's actually so hard to decide because I liked so much of the things that I did. I think maybe the things that stand out to me the most, maybe is more accurate, lay in the grass and watch the clouds. I really loved that day with Wiley, just kind of like sitting there and eating chips and just sort of enjoying my time. And also making a few TikToks was really fun to film. Even the photo shoot was really out of my comfort zone, and that was sort of embarrassing for me to film, but I think it was a good thing. Like, it was a good growth experience for me, and to develop a little more confidence in myself. Even some of the things that might have been more boring for you to watch were actually really fun for me to do, like the crossword puzzle and the playlist as well. Actually were really fun to film. I really enjoyed doing those. And then there's other ones that stand out to me more because they were really great experiences that I had with Shorty, where she was very prevalent in the video. Ones like the trying a new hairstyle. I wish I still had a lot of that footage because there were so many good bloopers that I intended on doing a blooper roll near the end or something, but a lot of my old footage from like before June is on a hard drive I can't access. I've mentioned that in previous videos, and the hard drive just became inaccessible randomly, which was devastating. That meant that the blooper video unfortunately couldn't be done because I'm missing like the majority of the series and I don't have any of the footage. But I mean, there were so many good moments with her, and I think looking back on this series, that's what I see the most, is all of the fun things that she and I did together. Because even if you didn't see her on camera, she was there, like sitting on my lap or just sitting nearby and watching me do whatever. And sort of genuinely makes me sad that season 2 won't include her. This kind of felt like a series we did together, in a sense, that even when she wasn't on camera, she was a part of it, and that's hard. So in terms of my least favorite moments, to be honest, I don't think I have any. I can't think of anything that like I did that I didn't enjoy doing. If I had to like pick one that was just sort of whatever, it would be the snowflake. Actually pretty much all of January really was boring as fuck, but the snowflakes in particular were more like one I could have done without. It was nice to do and whatever, but I don't think I enjoyed it as much as other ones. Oh, they make a time capsule. I talked about it a lot in episode 7 where it's featured. It's the first one for episode 7. It's very chatty, and I know that, but I had a lot to say about it. But I kind of planned on having more footage to overlay what I was saying. Like I said, I said it right in the video that I didn't want to delay the video because I wasn't sure when we would be doing the time capsule, but then we planned to go to my grandmother's for Easter, which was like a week or 2 weeks after I filmed that, and I thought, oh well, that's perfect because then we can do the time capsule stuff then, and then I can just overlay it over top of what I'm saying, just delete the stuff about not getting it finished. We can finish the project and then I can upload it. So I held it back 2 weeks longer than intended, specifically for that reason. And then we went to my grandmother's for Easter, and my mom was basically like, no one wants to do that, and we didn't end up doing any of the stuff I wanted to do. No one was prepared as usual. It's not so much that it was my least favorite thing, like in terms of the activity itself. I think it actually would have ended up being my favorite one if it had been done successfully, but it's my least favorite in the sense that it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. I think we'll still get it done, and like I said in that previous video, I might vlog it kind of thing, but it's sort of a shame it didn't get to be a part of the series because that's kind of that was sort of my vision. That's the biggest disappointment for me for sure. I also really loved the finger painting one as well. That was a lot of fun to do. So many of these were actually really fun to do. Even the puzzle one that seems boring, again, like I said in that video, it was one of the last things that Shorty and I did together, so it meant a lot. So yeah, those are my least favorite, my most favorite. The thing was, with this series, and a huge struggle for me throughout it from the very beginning, was consistency. With a series like this, you have to be consistent to some degree, and I think by choosing to do it as a YouTube series instead of on TikTok, which is what I originally considered because TikTok is so popular right now, and it does suit this sort of pick an item and do it every week sort of idea, or even daily. Some people do them daily, and that would have worked out good on TikTok too, but to be honest, I'm not as familiar with editing on TikTok. I didn't feel that I had the time or the patience to properly learn how to do it, and frankly, I wanted more time. I like making longer form videos. I like the more compilation style that I've been doing with this series, and sort of less pressure to have to do things exactly. Like at first I put a lot of pressure on myself to do it on Sundays. It was originally called the 52-week Sunday activity challenge. Basically every Sunday for the remainder of the year. Yesterday I did my Sunday weekly activity challenge, and then I changed it to just 52-week activity challenge because I couldn't always do it on Sundays, and I would beat myself up when that was the case, that I was doing on a different day than I should have, or I kept falling behind. And so if anything, I think having it as a compilation at the end of every month gives me a little bit of breathing room, because then it doesn't matter what day I did it that week. I felt, how do I word this? I felt obligated to, because this was a weekly series and because this was something I was uploading, and therefore I had to be held accountable to some degree. Even though nobody was watching my videos, I felt like if anyone ever did, or if this series, like, because you never know, like, you upload anything on YouTube or TikTok and you never know what video is going to be the one that does it and gets everybody, a bunch of people watching your content. And so it's like every time I posted, I had that in the back of my mind, that I had to maintain a very specific aesthetic and image for this series, or people weren't going to want to watch it, or people were going to get like mad at me for not completing it the way that it was originally meant to be completed. And so even though I really didn't actually have anybody judging me or telling me how to do anything or whatever, I felt like I did already, and it was all in my own head. But it was enough to kind of make this series rather stressful for me. Even things like cutting my hair in September, it's like after I cut my hair, I cut my bangs, and it suddenly dawned on me. I was filming for the July and August footage at the time, and so it's like, now that I'm filming that, if people look at my social media, if I do end up, if these videos blow up at any point, or any of my other videos do well, and people start following me and paying attention, it's like they're gonna notice that I filmed these after I supposedly filmed them. Like, this was footage for July and August, but I clearly filmed it after that. And I guess I just got so anxious that people would judge me for that or think poorly of me for it, that I even started doing things like doing my hair in a specific way to try to hide the fact I had bangs. It's like I didn't want to lie to people, but I also felt like I needed to like keep up that image, or like to let people make the assumption that I filmed them on time without lying directly and saying I did. I felt very overwhelmed with something that really wasn't that big of a deal, but I just felt so anxious about it. I felt so anxious, and I beat myself up a lot about not doing things on time. I didn't feel good about that. I didn't, my mental health was the whole reason this series started, was to try to get more joy out of life and to feel better about myself and build my confidence. And in the end, I ended up, my mental health got in the way of me being able to complete this series the way that I wanted to. That depressive slump from June until September like really messed me up, and it was hard for me to catch up after that. That was so many activities I had to do, and I was doing well, I was catching up, and then Shorty passed, and that's kind of when everything sort of stopped for me. July's footage was done, and then I was in the process of filming most of August, and I was basically filming every single day for this series in order to complete it in time. By the end of November, I would have been caught up, and so at least November and December's videos would have been filmed like on time. Like I would have been caught up. That was the plan anyway. And then Shorty peaced out on me, and I think it made me realize how anxious I was about people realizing I wasn't filming things at the right time, and how important it was for me, because like there were small things, like if you were really paying attention, you would have realized. And I think I was starting to kind of lose that feeling like I needed to pretend, because there were a few times where you could see, like for example for the letters, even though this was supposed to be filmed in August, I used a fall aesthetic for that card. Even things like the trees and the grass obviously not looking like summer in some shots, like it was becoming harder and harder for me to pretend anyway, and I was losing the motivation to do so. I genuinely was starting to slowly not care as much. But when Shorty passed, the idea of filming any of those things, the idea of filming anything really, and doing anything that brought me joy or was designed to bring me joy, just wasn't really on the table for me. Her death really fucked me up for a good like 2-3 months. This image I had formed that I was doing it at the right time, and that I kind of almost fell into a little bit, that it originally was intentional, and then it kind of almost became something that then I felt like I had to keep up with, because it just formed, and then I felt like I had to maintain that image. It kind of fell apart because I couldn't pretend Shorty wasn't dead, and I couldn't act like as if I wasn't behind by 2 months on a project that was supposed to be weekly, and just everything about it was stressful and a little bit embarrassing that I didn't complete it the way that I said I would, and I felt like a failure in a lot of respects. And this is just a silly YouTube series that nobody watches, you know what I mean? Like it really isn't that deep, but it did make me feel so awful, and it was a struggle for me, combined with the fact that I lost all motivation to pretend like everything was the way that it was when I should have filmed these things, to pretend like it was September or October when it was actually November or December, and my lack of wanting to do basically anything after my best friend died. I don't know, the series just kind of fell off after that, and I had no desire to continue it. And back in November, I filmed a chatty sort of thing that was supposed to start at the beginning of episode 7. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 7. We are at the official second halfway point of this series, and to those of you who've been watching up until now, all like 6 of you, thank you very much for that. And to those of you who will be watching in the future, thank you so much for watching back my old videos, and I hope you've been enjoying this series so far. As you can tell, it's clearly not July. I am wearing a turtleneck, and that would be very weird in July. I just wanted to stop here for a moment and clarify a couple things before we move forward with the series. It would basically just kind of talk about Shorty's passing, and the fact that, you know, the stuff that was filmed for July's video and for August's video features her, but she has passed. And so, you know, as we move forward with the series, starting from like mid-August until December, she won't be featured, even though she was technically alive. And for half of that time period, I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but basically in that video I also talked a lot about sort of my struggle with this series, and the fact that a lot of this stuff that was filmed during certain months were actually filmed during other months because I kept falling behind, and I didn't end up using that footage. I didn't feel that I needed to, because I figured I could address that in a video like this instead. There was like 3 activities that I filmed that were taking longer to do than I initially planned, and Shorty was a part of those. It took me months to be able to actually edit the July and August footage. I think I edited some of it last year, like while I was doing it. I was editing some of it, but the tail end of I think the last like 2-3 weeks I had to edit from scratch, and I couldn't bring myself to do that for a while. I couldn't look at any footage of Shorty, I couldn't look at pictures of her. It was really hard for me. So having to edit footage that she would have been a part of just wasn't really something I wanted to do, and I couldn't bring myself to do until March of this year. So that's kind of why the series took a while to get uploaded and to get finished, and so that's the story behind that. All of that said, I'm gonna be moving on in season 2, and I really wasn't thinking I would do a season 2 of this. I kind of thought I would just leave it as something that I tried and failed, and just another thing to add to the list of failures that I have accumulated over the last few years. But I really felt like the series deserved more than what I gave it, which wasn't partially my fault. I've been having a lot of health issues, like physically and mentally, mostly mentally, that led to this, and then also things like Shorty passing and the grief from that I think is understandable. Things like my hard drive conking out on me, my computer conking out on me, like there's a lot of things that happened that kind of got in the way of me being able to do things the way that I wanted to do them, even like certain ones that I would have needed family members to help me with and they weren't willing. It's not just my fault, like it wasn't just me just not doing it well enough. But the thing with a series like this is consistency is key, and I was not consistent. I didn't develop the habit of doing it every Sunday. I didn't push myself even on the days when I knew that I could. I do hold some responsibility for this series not being as successful as it could have been. Not even necessarily in terms of views, but in terms of just my own personal satisfaction with the series and completing it the way that I wanted to. But even if I had been consistent, I don't know, Shorty still would have passed this year, I'm sure, and so I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have finished it, but maybe I would have gotten a lot more done. Yeah, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a season 2 because I wasn't sure if this year would be a good year to do it. 2021, actually 2020 really would have been the perfect year for it, because that was the year of basically nothing and kind of what inspired me to do the series in the first place. So if I had had that like desire to do that in 2020, if I had thought to do it then, I think it would have been a great opportunity. But I felt like 2021 was the last year I could make this work, because I figured that 2022 I'd be in Japan, and that just didn't happen. And I don't know, it's not looking like it's gonna happen for 2023 either. So, but even things like my family, my parents officially put their house up for sale as of yesterday. I didn't see that coming, and I live here and have no choice but to live here. At the moment, I can't afford a place of my own. I can't afford a lot of things. So like there's just so much stuff that's gonna change for me because of just this move specifically. This is a challenge almost, the ability to do the series when my life is changing and a lot of things are happening. It kind of adds an extra like challenging element. It's not going to be as easy to do it now that I'm not living on a country property where I can do whatever the fuck I like. And you know, there's a lot of things. I'm gonna have to go through my list. We're not moving yet, probably not till like mid to the end of summer maybe, but I'm gonna take a look at the list. I'm gonna have to reevaluate what I can only do here on this property with the resources I have here, and then try to kind of go from there and worry about the other stuff that can be done anywhere another time. I learned a lot from this series. I grew a lot. I learned a lot about editing, and I got better at learning like the importance of things, like what's really important for a video and what's not, what can be cut out. That is still really hard for me, to be perfectly honest. I'm still working on it. I'm still learning. I grew a lot. I experienced a lot of fun things. I did a lot of fun things I wouldn't have done otherwise. And I spent a lot of time with Shorty. I have a lot of video footage of her that I wouldn't have otherwise. And I mean, I filmed her all the time, but like, you know what I mean. You know, fun things that we did together. And I think that that's really important too, and really special, and I'll cherish that. So this wasn't a waste. It wasn't a waste of time. I learned a lot about myself and ways that I can improve, and I learned a lot about content creation and how I can improve in that regard. So it definitely wasn't a waste. So I'm gonna try to do better for season 2. I'm gonna take on the challenge. I don't know if I'll be able to do it for a full year, but we'll see. I'll give it a try, and if not, then, you know, if I give it my best and it doesn't work out, then it is what it is. But we'll see. This video was really chatty, and I apologize. I'm all over the place. Normally when I film a video like this, I have like a script, kind of, or at least like bullet points of what I want to talk about. I'm ADHD, so I tend to ramble and get off topic, and my brain is constantly interrupting itself. Like I'll be talking about something, and like if you imagine it like a train track of thought, right? Your train of thought. I have one train, but then I have like 7 other trains that are going, and they're going in different directions, and sometimes they're just slamming into one another. So sometimes it's like I'll be talking about something and I'll remember something else, and then I'll go off into something else, and then, but it's like I come back around to that original thing I was talking about. It just sometimes takes a little bit. I've developed a like system of having bullet points and trying to stay on one topic at a time, and that kind of thing, sort of organize my thoughts beforehand. But to be perfectly honest, I actually don't have time today. I have an appointment in like 20 minutes that I actually have to get to, so I'm sort of rushing this. I've got like 7 other projects I'm working on right now and trying to complete all at once, and so I didn't really have time to sit down and make notes for myself and decide what order I'd talk about things and how I'd do it. I just sort of wung it today, and that's probably gonna show. I feel so bad for editing Mackenzie because she's gonna hate this. Apologies. But anyway, I just thought the series needed a proper ending because it didn't really get that. Even though I did have a little bit of a note at the end that it was the end and that I would be continuing on with the season 2, I kind of felt like I wanted to do a reflection video that would feel a little bit more like closure of this series. Thank you so much for watching. If you are somebody that has watched this series in full and followed it from the beginning and enjoyed it. That means the world to me. I currently have 9 subscribers as of this video. I had 8 subscribers for quite a long time. I think it's been over a year since I've been at that 8 subscriber count. So the 9th person subscribed sometime between March and early April. So thank you to that 9th person. But these videos, even though I have 9 subscribers, on average get 0 to 7 views. And most people don't watch them all the way through according to YouTube analytics, which is super awesome. So if you're someone that has watched these all the way through, if you're someone who has enjoyed this series and continued to watch it, if you are someone in the future that is watching these back and enjoying them, thank you. I genuinely appreciate it, and I'm gonna do my best in season 2. Hopefully it goes a little bit better and smoother than this season did, and yeah, I will see you in season 2.